Andrew Mackey was born in Tennessee and grew up in Lancaster, South Carolina. His parents homeschooled him from the early elementary grades through high school. He went on to graduate from the University of South Carolina, Lancaster with an associate's degree in 1996, the University of South Carolina with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and then on to complete his MBA at Wake Forest University in 2006. He is married to Lindsay LaValle and now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. He is employed by Bank of America as corporate workplace analyst with the title of vice president. And also on a personal note, I've known Andrew for many years. We attended church together, and he in fact was the youth director for my children through their teen years. So I'm very happy to welcome him here today.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for that introduction, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you guys today. Good afternoon to the family and friends that are gathered here, to the teachers, mentors, and coaches, and that may be the same group since this is a homeschooling graduation, to especially the graduates today who have long looked forward to this day. I want to again give them another round of applause for the accomplishment that they have. As Lynn mentioned, I'm joined here today by my wife Lindsay and also my parents who are also in the audience today. I live and work in Charlotte. I joined a company there years ago as a high-tech company, and then also spent some time at Fidelity Investments before working at my job at Bank of America, where I am today. Also, as you mentioned, I worked with a youth group for some time, and I've been listening over the last few months about several commencement speakers. There have been many people on the radio that I like to listen to, and many of them, you know, politicians, people of business, scientists, some amazing speakers, and I begin to wonder, you know, what do I have to offer? What can I give this group? I can tell you what I can give. I'm much cheaper. And as you know, homeschoolers are a thrifty lot. They do like to cut corners where they can to save some money. I do know a little bit of homeschooling, as Elaine mentioned. Our family homeschooled from a number of years ago. Actually, when my parents started, homeschooling wasn't actually even legal. It was back in the dark ages, what I call the Wild West of homeschooling. In some states, even some parents were fighting for custody of their children because they were keeping their kids out of school. And you know, what were you doing? These are truancy laws that you're violating. So, when my parents decided to take me out of school when I was halfway through second grade, they weren't sure what the plan was. We weren't sure what the plan was. We just decided this was something we were going to try, and so we jumped into it. And things were rolling along pretty well until one day we were at home and there was a knock at the door. We were way out in rural South Carolina, so who in the world is this? My mother answers the door and the lady's there. She says, "Hello, I'm from the Department of Social Services. I'd like to know if you were Bruce and Patty Melton. We've heard that there's someone out here homeschooling and we'd like to know a little bit about them. And do they live here?" And so my mom's sitting there. I'm sure she has a frozen look in her eyes. She's not like a spy or anything, so I'm sure the look on her face is just amazing. And she said, "No, we're the Mackeys. No Meltons here." Bruce and Patsy Mackey, not Bruce and Patty Melton. There was even a small wooden sign that was on the front door, Bruce, Patsy, Nathan, and Andrew, right there. But it somehow just fallen on its face. So after talking for a little while, the lady gave up and I guess she went home. So after that, I'm sure my parents had some legal representation not too long after that. But thankfully, not too long after that, there was the state laws changed, and all we had to do basically was announce that you were going to homeschool, and we took the standardized test, and we basically went through the process. And then my parents joined with two other families at the time, so there were two families in the entire county of Lancaster County that were homeschooling at that point. And we basically just took it 1 year at a time. We formed the group. We started the very first homeschooling group that was here in Lancaster, and we just kind of built from there. We met the Petroskis during that time. And just thinking back through some of the old things that we went through, Becca curriculums, McGuffey readers, I don't know if that's ringing any bells, Saxon math. Ooh, I see some grimaces over there. As I got older in high school, I was even able to play. I was glad to see you guys were able to play some sports. I was able to play with the local Christian team. I scored a grand total of 4 points in a season of basketball. So Large accomplishment there. And then I didn't have the wonderful opportunity to do the graduations that you guys, so I took my GED and then went on to be the first student to attend here at the University of South Carolina at Lancaster as a homeschooler, and then went on, as you said, to finish at USC and also at Wake Forest. So this is a little bit about my background, a little bit of the things that I've done and the places that I've been. But I wanted to turn it down a little bit, and as Michael said before, challenge this group as well. Up to now, your parents and the people around you, the teachers that have been in your life, have primarily directed your lives. They've pretty much told you where you're going to go, the way that you will live your life in many ways. And while they may have provided some opportunities, they have been the ones that direct your lives. I think this is a very critical point in your life where you will begin to make some of those determinations for yourself. You will determine the people that you're around, the things that you do, the time that you go to bed, the way that you'll conduct yourself. And it's sort of a time that you will begin to define and begin to make some habits that will then define the rest of your lives. It will impact a lot of the ways that you will conduct yourself. I do want to preface this entire conversation, though, with a realization that we do not control everything. I think a lot of people fall into that trap, and I don't want to go too far down that trail. I don't believe in fatalism that you don't control anything, but I do think people make too much of the fact that you have a lot of control in your life. So the fact that where you were born, the country that you were born, the parents that you have, the upbringing, the values that you have today, those are things that you don't control. What you do control, though, are the decisions that you make in your life, the decisions that you make every day that will impact the way that you conduct yourself in the rest of your life. And what am I talking about? An example of things we don't control, obviously, is the NBA. I'm not going to the NBA. 4 points in the season of basketball, it's not happening. I don't care how hard I work. But you can control the decisions that you do make. And so some of these examples that I'm going to go through, and I may step on some toes, so I'll apologize in advance. But let's take something like health, for example. I know several of you mentioned, and you said you're even considering health as a course of study. Where are your priorities? There are so many Americans today that are overweight. They don't have any kind of physical activity. They don't do things with their body that they could do every day. Just small things like 30 minutes of exercise every day, or even 3 times a week, and it would make a tremendous impact in their lives. And I think of a guy at work, though, because you're on a continuum. You have people here always thinking, I should do more in that area. That should be a bigger focus in my life. But you have people all the way on the continuum that maybe this is too much of an emphasis in their life. And so that's what I'm looking for, is a balance. You try to think about what is your priority, where do you balance your life out. I think of this young man, I won't mention his name, he's got work. He's a fantastic worker. He's very dedicated, very focused, very determined. He works out continually. He's exercising diet. He's the model, right? And yet, he uses his diet because he will never eat anything except what he brings from home. He isolates himself from his coworkers, and he uses his standards to really draw a line around himself. And one day I was asking him, I said, hey, would you mind helping out maybe with this volunteer activity? There's going to be some physical activity. Basically scoffing. He said, well, why would I want to do that? And I said, well, I thought to myself, what a waste. You use your muscles to lift dumbbells in a gym, and yet you can't go and use them for something productivity. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about along this continuum. Where is your priority in life? Where does it stand? And where do you want to be? Because either direction is an extreme. No activity here, and then this guy over here who all he does is work out for himself. There's a couple other things I want to go through. Education is I'm sure on a lot of your minds. I was glad to see that a lot of you guys are thinking about college next, and I think that's fantastic. But I think education is a lot more than just a single point in time, a period of life. I think education and bettering your life and exploring this world is something that you should continue to do throughout your life. I think, honestly, formal education often does a poor job of educating people and teaching them how to think for themselves. And often it's treated as like this path. Once you get this thing, it's going to be the golden key that's going to get you through life, and it's going to be your key to Easy Street. And I can tell you that's not the case. A formal education will open locked doors that are otherwise barred for you, but it's still going to take hard work on your part to make yourself the person you want to be. It will not come easily. I also was really glad to see some travel photos in there, because I think travel is another form of education. I think it is an amazing way, not just a cruise to the Caribbean, but it is an amazing way if you can go as a missions trip or a way to impact people and meet them on their local area. I think it's a fantastic way to broaden your mind. Because I was raised here in Lancaster, and when I went to the university, it was amazing to see some of the students that were down there that came from other countries and the way that they thought and the things that they did. I also want to challenge you, and again, I might be stepping on some toes, but consider the cost of education. I know that modern education can be $100,000 plus sometimes for years, and think about every time you purchase something, what are you buying? What are you getting for your value? What is this going to do for you in the long run? Because I think a lot of times they just kind of get on this track and you make decisions, you think you're doing what everybody else is doing, and yet you get to the point where, how did I get here? So you just have to consider each point in your life and why you're making these decisions. Finance is another passion of mine. I'm going to ask a very simple question. This isn't a trick question, so say that you get out and I'll make the math really easy since we're all dressed up today. Say you make $100 a week, right? And then say you spend all your money and you spend $110 in a week. All right, so how long do you continue doing this before this story ends badly? Well, with modern credit cards, you can do this for a long time, but guess what? The story's going to end very, very badly then. So what I would challenge you to think is, perhaps maybe if you can't buy it, maybe you can't afford it. This is not a fun concept. This is not an even American concept. This is something that we think about, but delayed gratification is part of being an adult. You know, kids think when they're young, I want it now. An adult, you have to say, maybe I need to wait. And this involves me driving a 17-year-old car. You know, these are not sometimes the most fun things, but what it does for you on the other end is it gives you freedom so that I don't have to worry about my light bill being shut off. I can be laid off from work and I don't have to worry about somebody coming to take away my house. I have the freedom to go, and when we have things like the HVAC system that just went out, it's a minor inconvenience. I have to go and schedule someone to replace it. It's not a major catastrophe that I'm wondering how I'm going to pay for this. If you're interested in learning more, go look up Dave Ramsey. He's got a website. He lives some crazy things. He doesn't believe in buying anything on debt. And you say, well, how do you do that? Car, education, house, none of it. Save up your money. He has some really radical ideas in that area. I could go on and on. I won't take the rest of your time. You can think about who your friends are, who you marry, your career. These are lots of decisions that you're going to make, priorities in your life. Again, think about that continuum. But what I've talked about a lot is the what and the how. What I haven't talked much about today is the why. And there's an expression, I was talking to a youth pastor recently. He said YOLO. Do you guys know what YOLO means?
YOLO.
YOLO? What does YOLO mean? You only live once? And what is that normally implied in? Normally that's used when you're about to do something really dumb, right? You only live once, I'm just going to have a good time. I want to challenge you that maybe the kind of people that are thinking about you only live once are people that don't know who they are and what they're here for. I was recently studying the book of Ecclesiastes with a group of people, and it's often viewed as a cynical book, something that, you know, their life is meaningless. But I view it very differently. I think the author was emphasizing that even if you make the best decisions in your life, you do all this perfectly, you live a fantastic life, but you do this life and you live this life without meaning and without purpose, you get to the end of your life and you wonder, what was it all for? And so I want to challenge you, for me, it is important for me to follow God with all my heart and all my soul, and to serve those people that are around me. And that, I think, is a fantastic purpose that will give meaning and will make you live a long and fulfilled life. I also have an additional reason for coming and wanting to speak to you guys and really pulling for your success in life. Because a few months ago, my wife and I found out that we were pregnant with our very first child. It's a fact why I'm wearing this pin today. And so you guys are going to be the leaders of tomorrow that my kid's going to grow up in. So don't mess it up. Go out there, work hard. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you guys today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. We now come to the most important part of our program, the awarding of the diploma.